Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Life's Best Medicine. This episode is brought to you by Simply Snacking. Thank you so much for your continued support. Great treats, getting back on track, everyone. Some good meat, some chicken, ethically raised, great flavors. I love them. Hopefully, I'm going to be stocking up at Boca Raton when my connection shows up there, hopefully, because I think they're helping out sponsoring there. So anyways, thank you, Simply Snacking, for sponsoring this episode. This episode comes, I'm sitting down for this one because I'm emotionally wrecked a little bit right now. So I'll just start. Yesterday, woke up, great day, doing my normal Saturday morning bike ride with my good friend Carlos Merlo, who a lot of you may have already heard on this podcast. We spent a great deal of time together. We've been friends. We've done missionary work together, medical work together. He's been a mentor of mine, and I've been a mentor of his for a while now. So anyways, we were, as we normally do, Saturday morning, we get up early, go for a bike ride in Coronado, one of the most beautiful places on earth. We ride up the Strand for about 30 or 40 miles typically, and just enjoy the time. We started out normal day, get in his truck, and Carlos says, let's pray before we go. And we prayed for us and safety, and for our friends fighting COVID right now, friends fighting cancer. And Carlos never forgets anyone. You know, he's a long prayer guy, right? So anyways, we get there, we're joking, we have a good time, we get on the bikes, and Carlos is going at a little bit slower pace than usual. So I said, I'll go in front and break the wind for you a little bit. And we happen to, we don't use our helmets that communicate very often, but we decided to do it that day. And so we're having a good time out for a good ride, and just talking a little bit. And he happened to have his heart rate monitor on. I didn't have mine. So I said, hey, what's your heart rate? We'll try to shoot for a certain goal and just kind of do a sustained, easy ride, just flat ground, beautiful, riding next to the beach and everything, the bay. And so we go and we're having a good time. And I was thinking, it's weird. I just started thinking like how blessed I am. I was thinking, once if I had $1 million more, what would I be doing? And I was thinking I would be doing exactly what I'm doing. I love my practice. I love my wife. I love my kids, Bailey and Megan, great kids and supportive and loving, and we have fun together. And I'm riding bikes with one of my best friends. I think, what else would I really want? I like to help people. I'm helping people now in certain areas, financially maybe. And I think, well, then I must be rich. If I'm at a place where life's good and everything's, there's no huge needs in life, and I transition my practice, I've had a lot of things to think about, been really busy, probably busier than I like to be, but great patients, great friends, downtime. I get to go to speak at conferences and spend time with some of the smartest people on earth. I get to do this podcast, talk to great people with inspiring stories. So, life's pretty good right now, and I kind of don't want to rock the boat. So we're riding, we get halfway through our ride, we're like about 16 miles or so, and so we stop to stretch and we're talking a little bit, and Carlos said, my back's kind of sore, kind of hurting. And I go, yeah, really, it's unusual, because I was complaining because I threw my back out this week. So I said, that's funny, my back feels pretty good, and I'm going to take you on the way back. I'm going to push you a little bit more. And so he gets off to stretch and we're talking a little bit, and he goes, yeah, Brian, I kind of feel dizzy. I said, really, Carlos? Why don't you go sit down, man, and let me grab you. So he went and sat down on a wall. There's like a slanted wall with a sign for a park that we were at, actually, on the corner of a busy street. And we go to get a drink, and I said, oh, let me go get you a drink. I go to get his drink, and I look back and I see him totally passed out, totally out. So I'm like, hey, Carlos, wake up, man. I thought he was messing with me at first. He's like out. So I go to grab him, and my good friend, no life in him. He's like a rag doll. Try to arouse him, pushing on his chest, slapping his face a little bit. Say, come on, wake up. Because I thought, it's what we call a vagal episode. Sometimes you get overheated, you get overstressed and stuff. And I knew his heart rate was fine because I was asking what it was all during our ride, just for my curiosity. I was wondering about where I was at. So anyways, Carlos is out for about 2 minutes trying to arouse him, couldn't get him up, couldn't wake him up. And so I figured I got to call 911. He's out, like totally out, like super out. Um, my phone was about 15 feet from me where he was propped up against the wall. And I was like, oh, if I go over to get my phone, he's gonna fall. So I'm like, I felt him to make sure he was sturdy on the wall, ran over, grabbed my phone. As soon as I'm running back, I see him start to tumble, so I grabbed him, we set him back against the wall. A couple of people driving by actually said, hey, are you okay? Can I help you out? So I said, hey, I'm calling 911. We got it. He was still breathing the whole time, and laid him down flat on his back, and opened his air. And I was thinking, as a doctor, uh, I know airway, breathing, circulation. He's breathing still. Things are good. He's still got a pulse. And so, but I felt the peace of God with me, and I'm out there. I have no defibrillator. I have no stethoscope. I have nothing, no medical tools, just me and a little bit of knowledge in my brain from when I used to do this kind of stuff a while back. But I just wanted to say, really, the only tool I had in my tool belt was prayer, and to be there as a person and say, hey, I'm holding your hand, I'm here with you. He was responsive for a second, was able to grip my hand, he was able to mumble a little thing, but his eyes were rolled back in his head, and he was totally out, absolutely out for at least 5 to 7 minutes. You lose track of time and those kind of things. And called 911. The operator wasn't the friendliest person, but we got the ambulance there, and I remember kneeling next to him and just assessing his breathing, making sure he's okay. And then hearing the ambulance coming from a distance was like, thank you, God. Thank you that these people are trained to do what they do. And I knew when they got there, they would be able to take over and get him squared away. But, I was thinking, this is like, you go out to have a good time, and then boom, everything can change in a second. People say it's not the end of the world, but for a lot of people, today is their last day. And for some of us, we may not be around next week, and some of our family members, and a lot of us are dealing with death and our own mortality and all these things right now. So one thing I remember, the paramedics were very kind, very decent. They were asking questions, and as soon as they got there, he woke up. Right, he started to come to, and I had his chest open, ready in case they needed to do a defibrillator. I had them all prepared for them, but I stepped back and let them do their job, obviously, because this is what they're trained to do. And initially, they thought it was a heart attack. They called it that way in the field, but once he got to the hospital, everything got cleared up, and of course, Carlos wakes up. And hopefully I can get him on to talk about it in the near future. He's still in the hospital right now, but he's doing well. He said, I don't need to go. I'm fine. I'm going to go home. I don't want to leave my bike here type stuff. And I'm like, no, you got to go. So, having to call his wife and talk to her and tell her what's going on and his family. And, those are things I'm not really used to doing very often, and especially when it's your friend. But I think one thing is, it's that I felt a peace that God was there. I felt a comfort. I wasn't stressed. I was just thinking, this is a terrible situation. We got to figure it out. The paramedics are going to come and do their thing. And I want to give a shout out to first responders, because, one lady that was one of the first responders, very kind. And she put her hand on my shoulder and said, hey, we got him. Thank you for everything you did. And, it was just that touch. That's what we need, the human touch sometimes, someone to say, hey, it's okay. And, the firemen were cool, and they go, hey, we could throw your bikes in our back of our truck and we'll take you to wherever you were parked and stuff. And I go, no, it's cool. My wife will come get me. And so I got to spend a little time there, send a tweet out to my Twitter family and said, hey, we could use prayers. And so many kind responses, and so many kind people that had kind words. And it's just nice to know that you can reach out. And for me, prayer. I'm like, what did I need right there? Prayer, for him. And, I was a little emotional too, just afterwards, while I'm sitting by myself thinking, wow, I'm sitting here with my best friend having a great time. And all of a sudden, it's life or death, and I started thinking, what is it because I know a lot of places right now have a shortage of EMTs and stuff because of the vaccination mandates. Once if it takes a long time, once if it's not 5 minutes, once if it's half an hour, once if it's 25 minutes, once it's 45 minutes, as some places are right now. That's the difference between life and death. And so I was thinking about our healthcare system, and just talking to Carlos today in the hospital. No one contacted his wife to let him know his status. No one contacted his primary care physician. He gave everyone my number. No one called and said, hey, is it a heart attack? Is it COVID? What is it? And so that's one thing we can learn as a medical community, is the importance of at least, when people can't go to the hospital, at least reaching out, at least having someone on the staff in the entire hospital calling to say, hey, he's doing fine. Here's what our tests are showing. Still not. I had to call today to get any information at all, but all I got was information from him. So it makes you think about some sadness of our healthcare system right now. That it's not that the doctors and nurses are bad people, it's that they are overstretched and they're stressed out and they're worried, and they're worried about their own health and their own family. So really, I just want people to know what we're going through as a society right now, and really the importance of faith, the importance of knowing that everything's going to be okay, just having that peace. Even the paramedics were like, you're really calm, like you're really collected and calm, and you're not freaking out. And I was like, I'm a doc. They didn't know I was a doctor. So I said, but it's never easy when it's your friend. You want to do the right thing, and you're praying, God, let your will be done, bring some healing, let them wake up. And just to see him wake up and kind of joke and laugh a little bit, was really, what a relief that is. Like, that is like a joy to see that, because it's scary. You don't know if he had a stroke. I didn't know initially what happened. I was hoping it was just a vagal episode, and he's doing fine. And I'm not going to release this till I talk to him and get permission. I'll let him watch it first to make sure he's okay with that. But just, having people from the church reach out to his family. My wife made dinner for them last night. I'm bragging on my wife a little bit. That's just her mindset. And just seeing people come together, it's really kind of a cool thing. So I think right now we're so divided, and so there's so much lack of people think that no one cares, but people stopped. People tried to help if they could, and really the first responders, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to them, and their professionalism and being kind there at the scene, and a bunch of ambulances and fire trucks and all that was almost embarrassing. But anyways, Carlos is doing well. We'll have him back on to talk about it. But really, I just thought this just raised some issues with me. It was really the first time as a doctor I felt totally helpless, other than prayer, right? I had nothing else to offer. So we like to have all of our, it's like being a policeman without your gun and your badge, or a dentist without your equipment. You can't really do a heck of a lot. So really, I just want people to realize the dedication of physicians and nurses, and they're on the front lines helping people and trying to do the right thing, and everyone just kind of overstretched right now. But I just wanted to share that. So sometimes life's best medicine is going through that, where you see someone near the end of life maybe, and not knowing, and still being able to have faith. For me, that was a huge deal. That said a lot to me, that I felt the comfort. And maybe God was just saying, hey, it's all right, Brian, don't worry about it. Maybe it was just that I knew once the paramedics got there, everything would be okay. But those, half an hour I waited for my wife to get there just by myself with Carlos's bike, and looking at his stuff and thinking about our friendship and what really matters, I think that's what it's about. It doesn't matter how fast your car is, how many cars you got, how big your house is, all those things. It's really about relationship. So hopefully this helps to let you think about life and death, and think about what really matters and what's important. And that's why I did the podcast, just to share faith, to share what really matters. And so hopefully you get something out of this. It's a shorter episode than I'm used to, but I just wanted to share about my buddy Carlos. Hopefully I can get him on and he could tell from his perspective, because we had a little bit of a laugh today talking about it. So it's nice to look back and be able to smile. And he knows that this is going to be a good story. I'll be able to tell everyone how I saved his life. Just kidding. The paramedics did everything, and it was just being there. But the other crazy thing about it is you look and you say, wow, Carlos went on a huge bike ride the day before through mountains, through this trail that I hate, that's brutal, that's a cardiac hill, and he was fine. But what if he would have passed out yesterday? What if we would have been in a different area? What if he would have been riding his bike when he passed out? It would have been a different situation. So, count your blessings, just take care of your health, and take care of yourself. And when you exercise with someone, just in case. Go for hikes with buddies, build some community. And thank you for listening. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and count your blessings today. Hey everyone, this is kind of cool. This is a couple of weeks later from what I was recording already of my experience. So I wanted you to hear it from the horse's mouth. Now that we've had a little time and a little distance, we haven't seen each other. Carlos, Merlo, welcome, man. Good to have you. I'm very, very happy to be doing this episode. I'll tell you that.
Hi, Brian. Yeah, I'm back, and praise the Lord, alive and in great health. It was a scary moment, and as you said, we haven't seen each other. it's almost a month, almost a month since that happened. It was actually Saturday, January 8th when that happened.
Wow, time flies, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, time flies. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, just kind of thinking about it. I mean, we're out having a good time, and then all of a sudden, boom, something like that happens. And I was glad it was you and not me, actually, because it was if you were taking care of me, that would have been a disaster, man. You would have taken my bike and my shoes and all my stuff.
I would have put it for sale.
Yeah.
That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I'd have gone on eBay and get my stuff back.
Yeah.
But seriously, tell people about that. Like, how was it? Like, I told them up to this point of what happened, and like, what was it like waking up and all of a sudden, well, at first you say, "Hey, I feel a little dizzy," and you sit down, and boom, next thing you know, you wake up and there's ambulances, right?
Well, I take a couple things from that experience, and I will talk about that later. But it was one of the best days that we ever had. It's funny that I had my heart rate monitor with me first time. We connect our helmets for the first time in a long time. Everything was going so smooth. We were really kicking butt on the bike. We were going 18, 19, even 20 miles an hour. We finished the first half of the loop. There were 20 miles, and we did it in an hour and 10, 12 minutes. And I will say probably 2 minutes before what happened, I told you my heart rate is 135. And you say, awesome, dude, that's great. I cannot see mine because mine is not working. You said that.
Yeah, we were talking the whole way because I'm like, what's your heart rate? Because we were kind of trying to keep a steady heart rate while we were riding. And so I knew you weren't having a crazy high heart rate. And so that was part of it, that I was able to give that information to the paramedics, which was a miracle in itself, right?
Correct. And that's, if you biking, it's important that you control your heart rate. Buy the belt and do something, because you never know when things can happen. So we finished the 20, we got out, and I have to say that day I have a beanie that we bought, the helmet at the top. I got winter bicycle gloves and a bicycle jacket. My jacket is really it is against the rain, and warm jacket. And I have a long sleeve jersey. So I think all of that contributed. I got out of the bike. I remember, this is what I remember. You got out, and I say, man, it's warm today, because when we start, it was not warm. It was kind of cloudy. Through the ride, the sun came up, and then it was hitting us. But you took your helmet and you took the beanie, and you start squeezing the beanie. It was a lot of water. I said, man, you sweat like a dog. And you say, yeah, well, on the way back, you said this, on the way back, we should go a little bit easier, slower, because it's a lot. I said, yeah, I took my helmet, only my helmet, my glasses, and I start drinking my water that I have electrolytes on. And then I put it back on the bike, and I start stretching. And I walk to a little bench that was there, and I sat down and I clean my sweat. I still have my beanie. I clean my sweat, and I go, Brian, I feel dizzy. Boom. Somebody turned off the light. I don't remember anything.
Yeah, and then I got to deal with all this stuff. They already heard my side of the story with all that while you were out, and then you're out for about 7 minutes, right? Still breathing, drooling, doing all of the other stuff you do. But yeah, but then you wake up. Tell people what it was like when you woke up and like you're on your back on the rocks, right? Because you have such a good friend. I lay you in rocks.
When I was start coming back, I see all blurred, and I see you standing in front of me, and the fire department guy was right there on his knees talking to me, and I see the fire truck right there on the right side. I remember that clearly, And they start asking me questions like, what is your name? How old are you? What year is today? And since we just switched year, it's 8 days on the year. I went like, 22. And they say, it was a tricky question. And I say, yeah, it was a tricky question. So we start, they said to me, we're going to take you in. And I say, no, 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 no. I'm okay. I'm okay. But it's funny that while I was saying that, back on my mind, I was thinking, how the heck am I going to ride the bike back another 20 miles? And then the guy started doing the EKG, and he says, we need to take you because all the EKG is showing that you're having a heart attack. It scared the crap out of me. And you were in front of me, you say, go, go, go. I will talk to Nora and Robert. I say, okay.
That's Carlos's wife and son, yeah.
Yeah, and then, yeah, we're gonna take you. And then I say, can I have my phone? And the paramedic went to the bike and disconnected the phone from my back and give it to me. And then we took off. Inside first time of my life, I was in an ambulance as a patient. And they blow the siren all the way there. And the guy got about 4 baby aspirins and put it on my mouth. And he says, chew those right away. So I did. The other guy put me an IV. And I was coming back fully at that time. And they want to cut my jacket. I say, no, no, stop. This is a $100 jacket. Let me, I say I can pull it. So I pull my jacket and my jersey, and then they put all this kind of cables in here. So we arrived to the hospital. We're not going to say the name of the hospital. We arrived to the hospital, and it was like a ER movie. They pushed me in, a couple doctors came running and say, okay. And they did another EKG on me right there. And they say, no, 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 it's not the heart. It's not the heart. It's something else. We need to evaluate this. So they put me on the emergency room. Everybody had, God loves me, because everybody had cartons all the way, but they put me on a room just by myself. I was there for 11 hours. And it was not comfortable because I have all this social stuff on me. Funny that they came and they used a Q-tip and went inside to do a COVID test. Nobody said anything about COVID, anything, but I start getting scared because all the stories that we hear that people went to the hospital for stomach pain or a headache, and they ended up dying of COVID. So I was scared and also afraid that they were going to give me something that will put me on coma or COVID or something. And that's when I send you a text and I say, Brian, keep your phone close to you, because whenever they want me to get something, to take something, I want to text you and I want you to tell me if I should take it or not.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, let me cut you off for a second, Carlos, because what happened at this time when you're on your phone, I didn't say your last name, I just said my friends went down, please lift up in your prayers. And I was thinking Twitter, I don't think of anything local. I'm thinking about like people like my friends all overseas and in South Africa and Australia and all this stuff. But at the same time, my wife starts getting calls. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Give us an update. She doesn't know because she hasn't even seen me yet. We haven't even talked yet. But I will tell you that so many people say I'm lifting Carlos up in prayer, and they don't even know you, right? They just know you from the podcast, or maybe just know we're friends. But so many people, like I was really amazed by that how many people say, hey, I'm praying. Like friends who I know don't pray said, I'm praying for you right now, right? And that gave me peace, because at that time there's nothing else I could do. You're in the paramedics, you're going. We don't know the whole situation. I knew you're cognizant, and for you, it's hard. That's actually an improvement over your baseline, actually, that you're making sense. That's what made me nervous, Carlos.
Well, I know, and and I am so sorry, but at the same time, I value your friendship and I value the love, because Lanelle told me that your Saturday was awful the rest of the day. You were not, you were worried about me. And I know there was a lots of people that were worried about me. It was overwhelming how many people were praying for me and how many people were asking. And I mean, it was just crazy.
And it was good too that, once we got the updates, we could let people know, okay, everything's looking good. That it was an overcall in the field. We'll figure this out. But just knowing you're there, they're checking the cardiac enzymes, they're doing what they have to do. And sorry to interrupt, but you were going back, they did the COVID test, but then they didn't really tell you anything about it.
They did the COVID test and nobody was saying anything. So the nurse came in and I say, how are you guys dealing with COVID here? And she says, between you and me, everything is COVID now. There is no more flu, there is more cough, there is no more, and she spoke Spanish, so she says no more gripe, which is some sort of the flu. Nothing. And she said, everything is COVID. And she said, but I take my mask. You okay? You are okay. And she took her mask and started talking to me and all that. And that's how it went. A couple of things that is always something funny on. I'm laying down on the bed, right? And this happens around 10:30 or 11. But then later, it's like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm laying down on the bed, and I feel like my feet are heavy. And I say, what? And then I look, I still have my biking shoes on. So I called the nurse and I say, could you please do me a favor? Could you take my shoes? And she took them. I mean, I feel light after that because the biking shoes are heavy. And so the day went by, and they came and they say that they're going to do a shot on my belly. And that's when the first time I text you, it was kind of like a blood thinner.
It was Lovenox. They were using a medicine that keeps you from getting blood clots in case you're in the hospital for a while, and it's pretty standard procedures.
So, oh man, I never had a shot like that. The needle was not a painful, but when all the fluid is spread, oh my gosh, it was burning.
Yeah, it was. We were on the phone actually when that happened, and I'm like, "Come on, Carlos, this is embarrassing, dude. Just a little shot. Come on, man. You're a macho professional soccer player, and then we get one little shot, and the drama that came with it.
Bad. That burning, it was horrible.
But and also, I want people to realize your son went to the hospital. He's a respiratory therapist. They would not let him see you. They would not let him talk to you. They would not let him in the hospital. Your family was banned to go. Your doctors can't go to the hospital. How much communication happened between the hospital and your wife during this 11 hours during the emergency room? Zero. Nothing.
The things that my wife knew is because I've been texting her. And
yeah, and just to give you weren't coherent, because I could text back and forth and I ask him this, Carlos, ask him this, see what's going on. And the fact is, if you were out and I couldn't communicate, we would have zero information. People who work for the hospital, listen to this. This is inhumane. It really is, because when you're worried about someone, they tell you it's a heart attack in the field, you can get no information back except from the patient. And the patient could be on pain meds. You don't know what. I mean, we're relying on the patient to communicate, and things get confused in translation. I think this is a huge issue that not one person picked up the phone and called his wife, said, hey, everything's looking okay. Here's where we're at. Not one person called me, or your primary doc and updated them at all.
Oh, the other thing is, my son works for that hospital chain, and they didn't allow him to go. My son says, well, if I would have wear my scrubs and just walk through, it would have no problem. But I want to go the right way. And they say, no, I'm sorry, you cannot see him. And he left my insurance card because believe it or not, there was a girl that came like 5 times to my bed because what she wanted is my insurance card. I say, hey, can you wait? I said, I need to, well, can somebody fax it to you? Can somebody send you a picture of it? I mean, it was like the money was the most important part. That was my opinion.
And you're out on a bike and not carrying your insurance card with you, right? I mean, you're not thinking about that.
Exactly. And I say, you see what happened? It was in a bike. I was in a bike and I don't carry my insurance card with me. Yeah, but somebody needs to get it to you. And I mean, until I really got annoyed, I just was bad with her. And I said, you know what? Get out of here. You want to get it when I get it. And anyway, so things were going and I don't know. That was me. My blood pressure was super high, like 184 over 85, 199 over 80, 90 or something like that. But I was so stressful, and my stress was being in the hospital by myself, not able to talk to my wife, not able to talk to anybody. That was a stressful moment. And I think a lot of people are suffering because it is a matter of trust. And I think we don't trust the hospitals anymore as we used to, because all the stories that we hear, all the stuff that, well, I can tell you, they didn't say anything about me having COVID, but 3 days later, I went to see my doctor for a follow-up, and I brought my discharge papers, like 4 pages, and I give it to him. And later in the afternoon, he says, well, Carlos, he texts me, it would be nice if you would have told me that you have COVID. And I say, what? COVID who? And he said, well, they told me you had COVID. I say, well, you saw my papers. Everything in there, nobody told me that I was positive. And I have nothing, no headache, no fever, my oxygen level.
And I mean, as a matter of fact, when we talked, I said, hey, Carlos, ask the nurse because, and I said, well, instead of asking the nurse, do you have a roommate? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, then you don't have COVID. They wouldn't put you in a room with someone else if you tested positive for COVID. So I kind of knew it was going to be negative. And then the nurse, tell them what the nurse told you about how they test everyone, what happens usually on the COVID test in the hospital.
She says that everything is positive. If you go, she says almost 9 out of 10 are positive.
With no symptoms.
With no symptoms. With no symptoms, exactly.
So that's the scary part, if people don't have symptoms and we're testing, because we're not testing everyone for the flu, we're not testing everyone for herpes, we're not testing everyone for all these other things that we worry about, especially if we're using universal precautions. So I think that's an important issue. And then you leave, your discharge paperwork says nothing about positive for COVID on any of this paperwork you received. And somehow your record says,
I have those 4 pages that discharge papers. And I went through them after my doctor said you were positive. I went through a boom, everything, nothing whatsoever. And that's
no one warned you because you weren't in the hospital you were only in the hospital less than 48 hours, right?
Yeah.
So if you truly had it, they would say, hey, make sure you protect your family, make sure you're right. Nothing.
I will assume that, right? The least they can say is, oh, by the way, you test positive. Take precautions, do this, do that, or whatever. But nothing of that was mentioned. And, so finally, another doctor came in and he started asking me questions about the day. And I say, well, the night before I didn't sleep well. I was thinking of family issues and I didn't sleep well. He says, emotional. I said, yeah, you can call it emotional. And then he said, how many miles were you riding? I said, 20. And were you guys speeding? I said, I would say, yeah, we were pushing.
But also the day before you went on big mountain hikes and mountain rides and all that. You went on the climb I don't like.
I was biking high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, what were you wearing? I say, oh, my clothes are there. So he says, oh, this jacket and this jersey? I said, yeah. And immediately it was like 5 o'clock the same Saturday. And he says, "Oh, this is dehydration." He says, "You dehydrate, and that's what I'm 70% is dehydration, and the other 30% is stress and lack of sleep."
And then trying to keep up with me.
Well, that's the stress.
So I'm glad we could joke about it, right?
Yeah, praise God. As a matter of fact, you still owe me the 4 slaps that you did on my face. So
Oh yeah.
you're gonna pay one of these days.
I kept praying, God, don't let him wake up yet. Let me just do one more. No, actually, honestly, Carlos, I was like, not today, not on my watch, not today. And we're thinking about all the possibilities. And so this is what I was hoping was going to be at the beginning, like, but no one stays out that long, like 7 minutes or so with dehydration generally. I mean, generally you come to quicker, but it's just the stress and everything going on at one time, it can hit. But it is a blessing that we're sitting here talking. I'm very, very pleased with that, right? Because I sat behind your family at church, and when you were out of town, I was thinking, man, just think if that seat was permanently empty, what kind of impact? Because I know what you're doing in Guatemala, how you're helping so many people, and think, gosh darn it, how much of an impact we all make, right? Could you imagine your kids without dad and mom, and all these things that they kind of go through your head? And that's what I was struggling with on Saturday. Even though I knew you were going to be fine, you kind of your mind goes there a little bit and you go, gosh, what happens? Sometimes people look great and then boom, they decompensate and things get really bad. And so I think, appreciation and friendship, and you start thinking about what really matters. I mean, when you were laying there in the hospital, were you thinking about like what really matters?
Well, a couple of things happens. Somehow my pastor was traveling, and he got to know that were happening. My pastor, he called me. My phone rang, and it was him. And I said, "What?" And he says, "Carlos, I'm in Kentucky, but what happened?" And I told him what happened. And then he says, "Well, I'm glad you recovering, and it was not your heart, and but I gotta go, and I just want to know from you how you were doing." And then he sent me a text saying, "Man, don't go yet. We still love you. We still need you. Don't go yet." It was funny. And but there's things that we as a humans, we don't think about it. But late that day, it was like 7 o'clock at night, it was dark, and I'm sitting right there. And the TV that I had in that room, my phone, I think it was bigger than the TV. So there was no way to watch TV either. So I'm there thinking, and I start crying out of the blue, realizing that how life is. Life is like a very tiny string. And I say, "Lord, I didn't have time to say, I love you. Neither time to say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me." I didn't have time for that. And that's what I take from that event. It was like a wake up call that there is a lot of things that we keep into ourselves that belong to somebody else, belong to your kids, belong to your friends, belongs to your church. Or, I take so much stuff personally, and I start worry about it. Even work, you shouldn't be stressed thinking about work as you sleep, like I was doing. On the other hand, we don't say I love you enough. We don't say I'm sorry when we need to say I'm sorry. And that was a wake-up call for me, that there are areas of my life that the Lord wants to work with me. He allowed me to stay because he's the owner of the life, and he's also the one that rules when you're going home with him. And now I'm taking the life in a different perspective, easier, relaxing, and telling my kids and my wife, I love you, I love you. And I say, I'm saying I love you, not like I have a cassette that I will repeating. No, I mean it, because like 3 weeks ago, I wouldn't be able to say I love you anymore. I would have been gone. And then the family also realized that the relationship among ourselves has changed because we take the life for granted, and we go on our fast life every day, doing this, doing that, that we forget the people that we care that is around us. And every minute of our life is something that is coming from the Lord, from our God. It's sacred, sacred. We need to respect it as sacred. Don't make it common. And unfortunately, we make all the sacred things, we make it common. And it becomes like, what's for granted? I'm breathing, I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I have a roof, I have a jacket, I have a car, I have a job. It becomes common, becomes like normal. But we don't realize and have time to say, Lord, thank you for my job. Thank you for my friends. In this particular case, thank you for Brian. Because really, dude, you're my best friend. And all the time that we spend together on helping other people on the mission trips, on vacation, on biking, all the stuff that we share, all of that, it was coming on my, like a video, quick video. What did this goes if I'm gone? We don't realize that. When this will go? And all the experience, and at the same time, my wife, what is she gonna do? And then you realize, oh gosh, she doesn't know the password for this. She doesn't know the password for that. It's a wake-up call. I'm writing passwords for everything. This is where you do this. This is where you do that.
God, that's an important thing. It really is, And, Carlos, I'll say one thing. I hate to compliment you, right? Unless I have to, but I will say you are the only person I know on earth that sets an alarm to pray for your kids every night. And whenever we do anything, like if we go for a bike ride, we always pray on the way out. Always. I forget, and you go, hey, Brian, we should pray for safety. We should pray for that. And I was thinking, I'm glad we prayed that day.
Yeah.
Right? Every day we do anyways, but it's like that point for safety, and you don't know. And for me, it was like how fragile life really is. And I've seen people die, and I've seen them like, not today. This ain't, that it was surreal really for me. And so that's why, it took me a little while to unwind that day, because I would kept thinking like, man, life's so fragile. You have a professional soccer player. Now we don't know what's going on. And, someone who's taking care of yourself, you're eating right, you're exercising, you're doing everything right. And then something like this, and you go, okay, and I think you think, what if it was not what, because for me, and I talked about this, it was like, I don't have a defibrillator. I don't have my stethoscope. I don't have anything in the middle of nowhere. And it's a helpless feeling, and I kind of mentioned about when we had the sheriff with us that was freaking out in Guatemala because he didn't have his gun and badge. And all of a sudden he's like a human being, right? When you realize you need some certain things, and we need a team, and we need people. And I'll tell you, I was so happy to see the paramedics, and they were very nice to me. And then when they showed up, and, one of the ladies put her hand on my shoulder and was just being a human being and thanking me. He's like, a lot about medicine stuff. I go, a little bit. I'm a doctor. So we tend to learn a couple of things along the way, but just knowing when it's your friend is different than anything. And I consider all my patients my friends, so it's always devastating, when something like this happens out of the blue, and it can happen to any of us. So it just makes you realize, people say, well, it's not the end of the world, but for someone today is the end of the world, right? Yeah. And so you start realizing, hopefully not today, maybe tomorrow type thing, or maybe in years, and so those are all really important issues you bring up, like just sharing your passwords, or saying, hey, look, here's what's acceptable, here's what I want, and here's what I don't want. These things that we just don't like to talk about, but it's really important.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stuff that goes around the house that we, the men of the house, we know everything here, or we have it on a piece of paper somewhere that nobody knows, so it doesn't help. Now I'm putting everything together, and I say, this is a package that contains everything that in case I'm gone, because, with my traveling for work, I travel every week, and praise the Lord, it happens here at home, it happens with you, but what about if it happens in another country? We're not prepared. We're not prepared. And we hear a bunch of stories that the guy knew everything, he died, and the wife is like, what do I do now?
We hear it all the time. People are helpless because they go, I don't want to know that because you're always going to be here, yeah, so it's hard because we take each other for granted a lot, and we just say they'll always take care of it. Once that they're not there, once there's something like this happens, and for me, I was thinking, because when we're riding our bikes, someone could run a red light and hit you in the crosswalk, or some crazy thing could happen so quickly, like we've seen it happen. We've seen bad accidents,
Yeah.
When we're riding, and you think, wow, this is like, just being prepared and thinking ahead. I think that's a huge thing. And and just for you, having the relationship you have with your family, right, it means something, because I know you guys are, even though it's even more acute now, because I never leave the house without telling my kids I love them, or my wife I love her. And I mean, because you never know. We know, I mean, being a doc, I know that day could be the day. You don't know. Like, our UPS guy died, a plane crashed on him out of, in the middle of, like, he wasn't even supposed to be working that day, and he gets killed. And like, what's the odds of that happening? And you just never know. And I think these are things we don't like to think about, but that's what I want this podcast at least to raise, those issues. And and I think also just issues that you dealt with in the hospital, of no one communicating at all. I talked to the doctor on the last day. Finally, I happened to catch him I think you called me when he was in the room, so that we could have a discussion of everything.
Correct.
The
Because
doctor,
I asked him to call you.
they never did, because they're overwhelmed. And
he was with me. This is the phone number, and nobody did.
yeah, and they're all in their defense, they're overwhelmed, understaffed, they're stressed out, and it's a tough situation. Like, everyone's in a tough situation right now, so I try to have grace. But it's one of those things, man. I can imagine, like, if you weren't able to text me, I would have been losing my mind all day, not knowing anything, right?
Yeah,
And they had to
the
take you to
other thing
surgery.
is, we're biking. Who wanna be carrying a charger for the phone, right?
Yeah, all those things, right? Yeah, yeah, because I'm like, I told your son, yeah,
And my phone is dying, and I asked the nurse, "Do you guys have a cable where I can charge?" Oh, with COVID, I would have done it, but with COVID, we can't. And then she says, "But let me see what I can do." So she brought an alcohol wipe. She wiped out all my phone, and she took it for a couple hours, and there was a little bit of charge. And then they transferred me to a regular room at night. And I was with somebody there that night. There was another guy, an old guy, that he was having respiratory issues like pneumonia or something. He couldn't talk, and he was able to eat. And I got up to the bathroom, and it was a curtain. And then I moved the curtain, and I saw him, and he was like, and I say, "I bless you in the name of Jesus." And he kind of like, he was asking me to pray for him. So I prayed for him that night. The next day, like 9 o'clock, the doctor that was in charge of him, she came and started talking to him. And she says, "You are a lot better today than what you were yesterday. What's going on?" And he was eating, and she was like, "What happened?" And then another nurse came and said, "Did you see him? He's better than yesterday. I mean, a lot better than yesterday." So when I left, I say, "I'm leaving, and take care." And then he opened his arm like this. It was, I almost cried, because he wanted me to pray for him. And I start praying for him, and I say, "You're gonna walk out of this place in the name of Jesus. You're gonna get up and walk." And he started crying. I mean, it was a moment,
yeah,
for God. You never know how God works.
yeah, and you
It
bring
might be
peace.
the case. It might be the case that I went there just to pray for that guy.
Yeah,
You
you
know what
never
I
know,
mean?
man. We talked about these things, where we
Yeah.
get, we've had those crazy stories. That's
Maybe,
why,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe I went through all this just to be able to pray for that guy. I don't know, but I did it. And I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit when I was praying for him. And the nurse was like, we walk out, and the nurse says, "Oh my gosh, that was powerful." And that's how God works. I
Yeah, that's
believe my
awesome that
Lord
you had the
gave me another
opportunity.
chance.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I'm gonna serving him more.
And I will tell you, I remember talking to you and you were exhausted. Like every couple hours they're checking your labs and blood pressure, and it was crazy. Like you had a terrible night's sleep and you're trying to recover. I remember it was just a terrible thing. And then Carlos, I have a question for you. What did they feed you in the hospital?
What do they feed me with?
Yeah, I can guarantee you it's probably like Jello, orange juice, cereal,
Orange juice, cereal, pancakes,
pancakes. The
bread.
heart-friendly diet in the hospital when they're ruling you out for a heart attack.
I know. And I told the nurse, I say, I don't need carbs. And she says, oh, the dinner was meatloaf, mashed potatoes, a piece of bread, and a tiny salad. So I ate the meatloaf, but I didn't touch the mashed potatoes, neither the bread and the salad. That salad at the hospital are awful anyway. And the next day, I got a big stack of pancakes for breakfast and couple
With syrup.
couple of scrambled eggs and fruit salad, orange juice, and black coffee. And that's I was there supposedly because I had a heart issue, and I've been feeding with all this. I mean, nobody was thinking that this guy, and I told them I want no carbs on my diet.
But that was they gave you the low carb version. Just think if you didn't ask for that. Yeah, man. But Carlos, thanks for so much for joining me. I know people were concerned about you, so I'm glad you could come in and tell your side of the story. And I think you raised a lot of important issues. I knew you would, about family and saying I love you and it's okay, and don't hold stuff, because if someone just dies suddenly, you can't go back and change it. When you have bad feelings and negativity and all this stuff, it's like, hey, life's too short.
No, thank you, Brian, for allowing me to do this and inviting me to your podcast that has been very successful. I am so pleased to be your friend.
And you always remember what episode was your episode? You always tell everyone. I'm not good at remembering episodes. Do you remember your episode number, Carlito?
Number 9.
Number 9.
10 is my number, but Mark Hernandez took the number 10.
Oh yeah, my other friend. So go back and if you haven't listened to those, go back and listen to it. You see the crazy stuff we do and what we've experienced in life. But no, I'm very happy to have you this time, Carlos, for sure.
No, thank you so much. And the things to take out of this is don't forget to say I love you. Don't forget to say I'm sorry, and give a hug and bless people. Your mouth, you can bless and curse people, but you will get more when you bless somebody. Bless people every day that is around you, especially your kids and your wife and your friends and your brother, sister, your parents, if you still have them. God is great. And in my case, he gave me another chance. I think I still have something to do here. My job is not complete. Otherwise, I would be with him by now. But my taking out of this is don't forget to say I love you, and don't forget to say I'm sorry. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you. And my take home is, if you want to slap your friends sometimes, just wait till they pass out. Then you could do it and no one gets upset with you. You could hit them hard on the chest. You could slap their face. You could do all that. But I prefer never to do that again ever in my life. Yeah, I'll tell you that. But hey,
I will get even with those slaps that you gave me in the face. I will get even somehow.
I know. But hey, thank you for your friendship and for all you do. I know the impact you have, and it became very clear through all this, and impact on people around the world. And it's really amazing, how much of an impact we really can have if we're honest and we go out there and we try to do the best we can and just be real human beings. And I think that's what you do. You travel the world and that you pray for someone when they're sick in the hospital, right? No one else is doing that. That person can't even see their own family. They can't even talk to them. Exactly. But to have the kindness of a stranger. So God puts you in these positions. I'm glad. And I hope people listening understand the impact of that, because I'll tell you, just that one paramedic putting her hand on my shoulder made everything better. right at that moment. Like that's what I needed more than anything, because there's nothing else I could do. So I think just being compassionate, a human being, and then also, I hope this speaks to the hospital people too. Like, hey, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to talk to the family, let them know what's happening, keep them updated. I know it's a hassle, but it's critically important, because the stress that everyone's under right now, they just need information. I think we need accurate information. And so, I think there's a lot of take homes from this episode, but Carlos, God bless, man. Thank you. And I'll
God
say I
bless you,
love you. I'll
Ryan.
say I love
Thank
you
so
online.
much, and God bless all the people that are watching your podcast. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Everyone,
Amen.
be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and just allow some of this stuff to sink in. Even Carlos has wisdom, believe it or not.
Exactly.
Thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.